And so, my dear ones, here we are, second week into looking at the basic fundamentals of science of mind, as we always do every January. And I am knowing that each one of us is eager and keen to get deeper on the inside of the teaching so that we can be all that we are. So last week we looked at infinite intelligence, the thing itself, that which is not a name at all. You cannot name it, it's ineffable. You can't name the ineffable. But understanding that it's pervasive, it's omniscient, it's omnipotent, and it's omnipresent. So it's in you and it's in me. It is you and it is me. That's where our focus was last week. Well, this week we're looking at the way that infinite intelligence works, the way it shows up, the way it is, the way it operates. And that is through the law of consciousness. It operates through the law of consciousness. It is that amazing, intelligent power and force and presence that is life and light and love that is conscious. But we're talking about universal consciousness now. We're talking about the almighty consciousness now, and we are a part of it. So there's consciousness at the macro level and consciousness at the micro level, and it all operates in the one way. As spirit thinks, so too do you. As spirit creates, so too do you, so too do I. As it is with spirit, so too it is with you when it comes to life and living and what it's all about. And so there are three components to the process of consciousness. And the science of mind hones in on those three components. It's all the one thing it's talking about, but there's three components to her. In looking at consciousness, this is the way it operates. There is the thinker, and there is that which the thinker thinks into. And then the action between the thinker and what it thinks into produces an outcome, a result. Or in today's age, you would say, well, there's the programmer, and there's that which is programmed, and as a result of that, there's an output. There's an output. And so we're talking about spirit as the thinker here. We're talking about the law as the creative medium into which it thinks, and then we're talking about the action between the two creating something, a result, a form of some kind or another, an experience of some kind or another. Now that's how the creative process works. Science of mind is simply the science of life. That's what it is, how life works. And in this state, we have to understand what's available to us because we know this. Because we know there is a thinker that thinks into a creative medium that produces a result, you and I can get to use that for whatever good we want to use. Because when Ernest Holmes says there's a powerful good in the universe greater than you are, and you use it, he's talking about the creative process. He's talking about consciousness. You see, I think, therefore I can. I feel, therefore I can. I do because I think and feel and can. Because I am. Now, I guess it can get to be a conundrum and a Zen koan at times. But simply, basically put, you're thinking about there's a thinker. There's a creative environment into which it thinks. And as a result of that action, there's a result, an experience, a form, an output. That's all we have to understand or know. And I'm the thinker at the micro level. I'm the thinker, and what I think into is the great subconscious universal mind that is the only mind there is, the one mind, and I have access to all of its power when I think into it. And when I think into it enough, it's going to respond to me, and it's going to produce for me what I'm thinking. So what is the process then? How does that work? Well, here's how it works. I have a thought comes to me. The thought persists, and then I agree with the thought that has been persistent. And once I agree with it, I begin to feel it, I get convicted about it, I begin to believe it, I begin to think, oh yeah, this could work, this could happen, I want it to work, I want it to happen, it's going to work, it's going to happen. And when I get to that stage of that kind of conviction, it drops down into my subconsciousness, which moves into the whole collective consciousness, and all of that power backs it up. Then that's where the law of mind moves upon it and molds itself to it and comes into agreement with it. And when it does, the way is made straight for me to realize and experience whatever it is I'm thinking. And that part of it is none of my business. How it's going to happen is none of my business. My business is to get clear on the idea, to get clear on whether or not I want it to happen, then to back it up. So the question for you today is, what do you want? What is it you want? What do you want? And then, what am I going to do about it? So, what I want is this thing to happen, whatever this good thing is. And I've backed it up now with all that I'm thinking and feeling and doing. And the process for me now is to support it. How do I support it? I think about it, I dream about it, I imagine it, I vision it, I feel it, I hunger for it, I thirst for it, I have a passion around it, I'm going to do it, I'm knowing I'm doing it, and nothing and no one is going to get in the way of it, and it doesn't matter if there's a shred of evidence to back up that what I'm thinking is happening, or all evidence points to the contrary. It doesn't matter. I'm knowing it, I'm knowing it, I'm knowing it, I'm feeling it, I'm feeling it, I'm feeling it, I'm thinking it, I'm thinking it, I'm thinking it, I'm seeing it, I'm seeing it, I'm visioning it, I'm imagining it, I'm dreaming it, it's happening, and that's that. That's what I have to bring to it. That's what I have to bring to it if I'm going to realize this good. And I have to have that kind of tenacity. I have to support it in that kind of way. I can't be wishy-washy about it. I cannot. I just cannot. There are 2 balloons on the piano there, and one of them is indicating a fully orbed, ready idea for maturation, for fruition. The other one is a half-baked idea, a half-hearted idea. And as you see, it's not rising, it's not going anywhere. It really isn't. And what does the idea look like in the beginning? It looks like this. It's it's just a, it's getting not much attention, if anything. Look, that's what it is. It could be that, but this is what it is just now. So I look at this thing and I think, well, do I even want to invest in it? Do I really want to put any effort into it? I don't know. And then it persists, and then I say, oh, okay, all right. And so I begin to give it a little bit of life, a little bit. Okay, it starts, and there it is. And it's wobbling around and it's bobbling around and it's not amounting to much of anything. And it's just an annoyance more than anything else because I have to hang on to it. If I let it go, there it's gone and that's it. So I think, all right, I'll give it another bit of effort. And I support it. And now it's beginning to form into something. It's looking interesting. I think I'll support it a little bit more. And there it is. I support it a bit more and it's looking even better. And I'll go for it. Let's go for it. And then I keep supporting it. And as I do, it gets stronger and more powerful and more present and more visible to me. And I keep going, and then friends begin to say, oh, God, what's that kind of thing that you're doing now? What are you giving all your energy to? Are you sure you want that? I don't know. It looks strange. And nevertheless, you keep pursuing it. And you keep pursuing it. And then your friends really get worried. They say, oh my gosh, you realize what that's going to take and all the effort you're going. And what are you going to do with it when you have it all formed? You'll have the responsibility of it and so on. And nevertheless, you let it go and say, oh, and then you're getting so excited and you give it some more. And then people are getting afraid and you're beginning to get afraid because what if this blows up in my face now? What if it blows? Oh, and then you get a little bit more tentative. It's becoming awesome. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. And then because the other people, you've let the world get at you and so on, what happens is you were just at the tipping post and you let it go. You let it go because you let something other than your desire, other than your knowledge, other than your feeling, other than your conviction get in the way of it, and it fizzled out. And now, if you want to go back to it, it's a little bit more out of shape and bent and a little bit more limp, and you're not sure and whether you will or whether you won't, and you might or you might not, and there it goes. That's the process. That's how it happens. That's why to get it to that phase there, where I can let that go and it will float and float and float and get higher and higher and higher and go further and further and further and wider and wider and wider and so on and so forth. I must nurture it and I must nourish it. We equate the creative process often with a gardener and a seed and soil. And the gardener is the thinker, the programmer. And the gardener very carefully picks the very best seed that she can find. And then the gardener knows that the most important part of this process is the soil into which you're going to plant this seed. So she prepares the most beautiful soil, the most, growth-oriented soil, the best that she can provide. And when that's done, plants very carefully the seed into the right environment for it to grow, a rich environment for it to grow. And then that gardener takes very good care of it and makes sure it gets all the nurturing and nourishing it needs, the right amount of sun, the right amount of water, the right amount of nutrients, and so on, and carefully tends it until it comes to fruition and brings home a harvest. And the gardener doesn't worry about the process either. The gardener knows, I have the good seed, I have the great soil, I have the right elements, it's going to happen. And it does. There's no worry around it, it happens. It happens, and anybody who's gardening knows about that. And so that's what you have to do with the fertile soil of your mind, and I have to do it too. I have to choose very wonderful, the best seeds possible that I am going to allow drop into that very fertile soil of my subconscious mind, because it will bear fruit, it never fails. It's going to bear fruit. Once it hits that soil of my subconscious mind, that idea will show up in your life as an experience of some kind or another, because that's how the law of consciousness, the law of mind works. Once it reaches the fertile soil of your subconscious mind, it's going to show up no matter what. But it takes great endeavor to get it to drop in there. It has to be an idea that I have been persisting with. It has to be an idea that keeps reoccurring. It has to be an idea that I keep pondering. And whether it's on the affirmative or negative side of life, if I give it enough oomph in that way, it will reach the soil of my subconscious mind, and it will show up in a great harvest of some kind or another. Whether it's affirmative one or a negative one, it's going to show up. It works the very same on the negative as it does the positive side of life. So that's why you and I are called today to monitor our thoughts. And as Holmes says, remember, he reminds us in the second chapter of the text, he says, remember, your word goes forth from you, and it does not return unto you void. It accomplishes that whereunto you send it. And he reminds us too of the great words. It is by your words that you are enlivened or condemned. By your words, you're going to be enlivened or you're going to be condemned. You're going to be justified or you're going to be condemned. And again, he says, he reminds us of the great expression, we do not live by bread alone, but what we live by is the very word of God. And what is the word of God? The word of God is the consciousness within you and within me. It is that power for good in the universe that's in you and that's in me that we use all of the time. And a lot of the time we're using it unconsciously. We're using it mindlessly. And because of that, we all create not so good experiences in our lives, because our word is spirit and it is truth. Ernest Holmes reminds us. It has power, it has strength, and it's going to show up when I embrace it. And so we have to be extremely and very, very careful about the way we're thinking and feeling and doing in our lives and living. Because what I'm thinking about causes me to feel in a certain way. And my thoughts and feelings together causes me to behave in a certain way. And the way I behave produces my life's experiences, good, bad, and indifferent. So if you and I could really grasp the awesome power that is available to us through the law of consciousness, through the creative process, through the way we think, we would be able to change our lives exponentially if we harnessed that power, directed that power, focused in on that power, and thought only in ways that generate lifefulness, that generate advancement, that generate growth, that generate all things good. And that's why I suppose Paul said, if you're thinking about anything, ponder on things that are of good report. Ponder things that are life-giving, growth initiating. Those are the things to be thinking about. Now, it's difficult sometimes when life seems to come up in baskets as far as challenges are concerned, to keep firm in the resolve that as I think it, so it is. As I think it, so it is. As I think it, so it is. Am I going to come into agreement with all the negatives that have challenged me, or am I going to just part the Red Seas or the Dead Sea on that and start thinking the way I want it to be, feeling the way I want it to be, so that it can be the way I want it to be because I'm thinking and feeling all right. Now, it sounds simple enough, but to start this new habit and this new practice of thinking aright, thinking on the affirmative side of life so that I can feel on the affirmative side of life, so I can produce affirmation in my life, is quite the challenge. But we're equal to it. We're made equal to it. We're born with the ability to be on the affirmative side of life. It's a given. So it depends on what we're going to identify with. Will we identify with the egoic humanity of ourselves mostly, or will we identify with the spirit and truth of ourselves mostly, you see? Now, consciousness has to do with the sense world and the world that we're seeing and the world out there. Subconsciousness has to do with the interior part of our experience of life and living, the invisible part of the power that is ours, and it's much more magnified as far as power is concerned than what is the conscious awareness of ourselves as we go through experiencing life on a sensual level in the world of the senses that is mostly kind of humanly driven. Now, you and I have to start thinking once and for all that we're so much more than we're humanity. We're not going to do it well if we cannot get beyond thinking that we're just human. We're not just human. And people say that all the time, don't we? I'm just human after all. Well, no, I'm not just human after all. I am human, but then I'm more. I am human, but then I'm more. And I have to identify with the moreness of me, which is the super intelligence of me, which is the super consciousness of me, which is the solid, whole truth of my essential essence, the eternality of me. There's where I need to be identifying at least 51% of the time to have a fantastic life. If I can just do it for 51% of the time, I will have an absolutely fantastic part of life. But I have to know what this thing called the word is. I have to know how to maneuver within it. I have to know the feeling that gives me when I'm one with it. And it's not anything to do with a word. It has to do with an essence, an energy, an environment. It has to do with an environment. So what is the environment of your mind? What kind of a gardener are you in your own mind just now? What kind of seed are you sowing in your own mind just now? And what kind of results are you getting from the seeds of ideas that you're sowing in your mind just now? I ask myself this question. I ask us all to ask it of ourselves this week, because maybe some little changes need to occur if we want to have a better experience of life and living and show up in a way that's much more celebratory and much more lively and much more playful and much more open and receptive to every good thing that's out there and available to us, because every good thing is out there and available to us, and it's available to us now. God tomorrow, good experience tomorrow, is no good to us. The experience of all that is no good to us. It must be in today, right here and right now, and that's where it is, and that's where it always has been, and that's where it only ever can be, today. So what's going on in the fertile soil of your mind today, in my mind today? Because whatever it is, it's sowing the seeds of what I'm going to experience tomorrow. It will be the food that I will eat tomorrow. And remember, sometimes we do have to eat our words. And so we want to make sure that that's an appetizing word we are eating. And I love what Will Rogers, I love the philosophy of Will Rogers and his take on life, but he always says part of that wonderful success in life and living and feeling at one with life and living is to never miss a good opportunity to shut up. That's what he says. Don't ever miss a good opportunity to shut up. So we have to shut up some of those ideas in our minds that wouldn't be producing a good food diet for us to digest in consciousness at all, and would cause indigestion here. Isn't it amazing about the congestion of our minds can cause indigestion in our stomachs very often, and that's what we don't want to keep doing. I mean, the awesome power that is given to you and to me is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. But what is it going to take for you and for me to start now getting excited about it? Remember, passionate and excited and enthusiastic and hungry and thirsty for the experiences that thinking aright can bring to us. I mean, I guess we're not hungry enough. I guess we're not thirsty enough. I guess we're not enthusiastic enough to want to bother to discover how we can be, how we can feel, and the impact that can have, not only on myself and my life, but everything and every life around and about me. I mean, truly, the best way to be healthy in every way is to think in healthy terms in every way. You know, I just read, I don't know where I read it, in a book or I heard it or something or another, let love be the source of every thought and every feeling and every action that we engage in, and then life is going to be a most amazing, beautiful, wonderful experience. And more than that, it's going to be fun, and it's going to be play, and it's going to be light, and it's going to be celebratory, and it's going to be energetic, and it's going to be all those wonderful things that sometimes we might see in somebody else and say, gee, I wish. Well, stop the wishing, everybody, me included, and let's start being with the power and the presence that is available to us for the thinking of it, for the owning of it, for the agreement with it, for the feeling then dropping itself down into everything that we are, pervading all of the environment that we are, and then da-da-da-da-da-da-dum-bum, boom, the great experience of that, the great payoff of that, the great harvest of that. You're an amazing environmental, absolutely phenomenal vibration that just awaits your planting, your sowing, your tending to for whatever kind of a great good harvest that you desire. This is the truth. It is so, and so it is, so make it so. There we have it.